So you have studied Ayurvedic medicine, and these years take a major part of your life. Once you become a doctor, you are committed to healing. And to be a great healer, learning has to become a never-ending pursuit in your life. So doctor, what are you doing to continue this learning?
A very warm welcome to all the doctors, students and practitioners for this Acharya Rasayana.
Learning experience for everybody, even for me also, isn't it? So there is no end for learning. So that's what actually I believe.
Today's subject you are given is psoriasis.
Clinical dermatology.
If you use Vamana on yourself first, then you will believe that it will help.
Spending few hours with a scholar is equivalent to months of time spent reading books. In the name of Acharya Rasayanam, we are bringing excellent minds on Ayurveda with rich expertise in clinical practice. The purpose of this initiative is to guide and uplift the confidence and clinical expertise of every Vaidya. There is a saying, if you cannot be a king, the next best thing is to become a healer, because you are changing people's life, and that is the power of a Vaidya. Acharya Rasayanam is an Ayurvedic practitioners only CME program initiated by Sitaram Ayurveda's 100th year celebration through Sitaram Research Foundation. Sitaram started its healing journey in the year of 1921. Being a pioneer in Ayurveda, Sitaram extends the healing powers through a state-of-art GMP certified manufacturing plant, government approved R&D laboratory, super specialty Ayurveda hospital, and an NABH accredited Panchakarma retreat. By attending Acharya Rasayanam, you will get the opportunity to get valuable insights on clinical practices, various methods and techniques prevalent in the Ayurvedic medical fraternity from the best scholars. You will be receiving the show notes, certificates, webinar recordings, and the latest updates on your email and WhatsApp. To receive latest updates and newsletters, please send a text to 89434 41881. For more details, log on to our website www.sitaramayurveda.com. Acharya Rasayanam. Great practitioners invest in learning.
Very warm welcome to all of you to Acharya Rasayanam, a CME initiative by Sitaram Research Foundation and Sitaram Ayurveda Private Limited. As this is an initiative as a part of our 100th year celebration of 2021. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. Mamta KV Madam, and she will be talking on the subject of endometriosis. And one of the reasons why we invited Dr. Mamta KV Madam is she always tells that she is a student, and even though she is a principal of one of the most reputed colleges in India. And to talk about her background, she's a gold medalist from Karnataka University in the 1993s, and she did her post-graduation from BHU in Prasuti Tantra from Varanasi and PhD from National Institute of Ayurveda in Jaipur. And many of the students who have done Prasuti Tantra today, either she is taught directly by her or taught by a teacher who was taught under her. So indirectly or directly, we all have a big courtesy to this great teacher who also practices what she preaches. And she has guided more than 30 to 50 presentations in MD and also in PhD. And many doctors look up to her as a role model when it comes to practicing with gynecology and also with women's health. And she's a resource person for Ayush Grama program, and she's actively involved in public health programs and delivered more than 400 guest lectures at various health programs. And Mamta Madam, it is really an honor for us to have you in this CME program of Acharya Rasayanam. And we really look forward for the insight that you're going to share with such a rich experience that you have. Thank you, Madam, and we share the dais with you.
Good morning, Vignesh. Thank you for your words. And thank you all the viewers of this Acharya Rasayana program. Sunday morning, in spite of your heavy work or a routine relaxation, you all joined to my presentation. Really, I'm grateful to you. So when I was doing my PG, or when I started my career, probably very rarely we used to get cases of endometriosis or chocolate cyst. Maybe once in a week or so, we used to get the cases of endometriosis. And if we see cases of endometriosis, we used to think, oh, very rare case we got. That was the scenario or situation. But now, after 25 years of practice, when I look into my cases coming today into my OPD, every fifth or sixth case, I can say at least 1 in 10 cases turn to be a case of endometriosis, turn to be a case of chocolate cyst, or even I have noticed that the patients who are in their teens, they come with severe dysmenorrhea, and if this dysmenorrhea is not treated in the sense, I do not mean that treatment by just painkillers. If we do not go into the nidana for this particular dysmenorrhea or udavarta yonivyapad, I have seen them turning into the cases of your endometriosis, or in other words, what we call it as vatala yonivyapad. So such as the prevalence of the disease endometriosis, or in other words, we can also say that the lifestyle of today's young generation is making life more prone or more predisposing for the disease endometriosis. So coming to the disease, what is endometriosis? What is called as endometriosis? Endometriosis as such, it is the presence of functioning endometrium or functioning uterine glands which produce the menstruation glands as well as stroma, which is responsible for the production of bleeding during the cycle. Its presence will be seen outside, anywhere outside the inner layer of the uterus. This condition is called as endometriosis. When it is outside the uterine cavity, entirely outside the uterine cavity, we call it as endometriosis. But if these lesions are somewhere within the layer of myometrium or embedded inside the myometrial layer as islands of endometrium within the myometrium, then we call it as adenomyosis. Endometriosis we can diagnose by various means, whereas adenomyosis is considered to be a purely histopathological diagnosis. When the specimen is sent after hysterectomy for analysis, for histopathological examination, if they give the report as adenomyosis, that is a confirmatory for adenomyosis. So endometriosis and adenomyosis are the two different forms of one particular pathology. So it is considered as a benign disorder. Usually it's a benign disorder, but since it's fast growing, if the invasion or spread of this endometriotic lesion is very fast, then even it can be considered as a potent disease it has a potency to turn into malignant disorders. So often it was asymptomatic earlier, or sometimes in 8% of cases, it may go as asymptomatic also. The incidences according to olden books, it was said to be 1.6 cases per 1,000 women. But now by seeing the current scenario, we can say that almost 1 in 10 women is suffering from endometriosis. So altogether, this may constitute for 176 million of women suffering from the disease all over the world or all over the globe. So during the first initial few years of menstruation, the disease may go asymptomatic. Asymptomatic in the sense, though there is the presence of endometriosis, the cases may not have any symptom as such in them, or they may not show the symptoms as such, but 20 to 25% of the patients will have some of the symptoms, some or other symptoms. Around 50% of the cases will have presenting feature as infertility. Minor dysmenorrhea to very severe dysmenorrhea may be one of the presenting feature. In another set of patients, dysmenorrhea may be there or may not be there, but they may be presenting with infertility. When they are investigated, then they will be diagnosed as the cases of endometriosis. Earlier, though, it was said as very young girls in their teens are not having endometriosis, and it is considered to be a disease in the late 30s. Now, around 5% of the girls below 18 years are also suffering from endometriosis. So that is the reason why I took upon this topic of endometriosis for today's presentation. So family history of endometriosis is usually seen in the patients who are suffering from endometriosis. So the disease is 7 times more prevalent in the patients where there is a family history. So it is earlier it was considered to be a disease which is more seen in a socio-economically rich class of patients, but now it is not so, or you can say that the socio-economic status of all the people are almost equal, or you can say there is no very poor patients, almost everyone is higher middle class patients. So we see the incidences of this endometriosis even in all the socio-economic condition, though the textbook says it is the disease of rich people only. The parity will be, if we can parity for incidences of the disease, usually patients will be infertile or subfertile, where after one child, the possibilities of developing endometriosis can also be seen. Okay? Then coming to what are the different theories of origin of this endometriosis, there are several theories which are said to be causing endometriosis. The important among them is considered to be endometrial spillage. They say the menstrual blood, instead of coming down, goes in a reverse direction due to the Vikriti of Apanamata, and this reverse direction of the flow of endometrium or flow of menstrual blood or menstruation goes to the tubes, and it gets spilled through the tubes, and this spillage into the peritoneal cavity, maybe mostly in the pouch of Douglas, gives rise to the development of endometriosis. But another theory simultaneously explains that not only one woman, every woman has this endometrial spillage or retrograde menstruation is seen in everyone, but it will not be developing into endometriosis in all the patients. Only there is a predisposition of endometriosis or development of endometriosis in spite of having retrograde menstruation is seen only at a certain category of patients. So modern science do not explain which category of patients will develop into this endometriosis, but they say there are certain immunological factors which take care of the spillage of this endometrial fluid. Those who are immunologically compromised will have the development of endometriosis out of the spillage, and others will not have this endometrial development of endometriosis with this spillage. This is one theory. Another is serosal cell metaplasia, even of Anne Meyer's theory, where he says that during the embryonic period itself, the multipotent cells which are responsible for development of development of all the tissues in the body are deposited at ectopic sites, some of the ectopic sites of the body, such as maybe ovary or pouch of Douglas or pelvic peritoneum, etc. At suitable environment, when they get the suitable environment, then these islands of totipotent cells will develop as endometriosis. So deposition of endometrium at the time of birth itself, which will be quiescent at certain period for certain period, and they become metaplastic or they start developing as endometriotic tissues in later half of the life. One. Another theory says that it may be through the lymphatic or vascular embolism theory, also called as Sampson's theory, where the endometrium is carried through the lymphatics or the vasculature of the uterus, and they will be deposited at some ectopic sites, some other sites outside the uterus, and from these sites there will be development of endometriotic tissues. Then the immunological theory of development of endometriosis says that natural killer cells activity or cell-mediated cytotoxicity or tumor necrosis factor alpha, epidermal growth factor, integrins, all these which are responsible for the peritoneal fluid immunology, will be altered in the patients of endometriosis, and this alteration in the immunological status of the peritoneal fluid and the peritoneal environment is responsible for the development of endometriosis. Whatever it is, we can say that Prakriti and Vikriti, if we compare it to Vatala Yoni Vyapat, we can say Vatalayaha. That means Vata Prakriti patients are more predisposed for this particular development of the disease. And at the same time, when we see the Nidanas, there will be more Vatakara Nidanas in these patients. So inevitably, these Vatakara Nidanas are causing Karshana of the body or Dhatukshaya of the body, and there plays the role of immunology in the occurrence of this disease. And even if we, all these theories of maybe endometrial spillage or serosal cell metaplasia or lymphatic and vascular embolism, vascular and lymphatic embolism is again abnormality of Vata. Serosal metaplasia is also abnormality of Vata, and endometrial spillage, as very evidently said, it is Udavarta. And Udavarta Yoni, one of the variety of Vatala Yoni, Vataja Yoni Vyapats, and Chatusrashwapi Chadhyasu Bhavanti Anila Vedana, one particular variety of Vataja Yoni Vyapat or Vatala Yoni can also predispose to other types of Vataja Yoni Vyapats. So interlink between 5 varieties of Vataja Yoni Vyapats is very well explained by Sushruta. So coming to what are the ectopic sites where we can see this endometriosis is other than the endometrial cavity, abdominal wall. After cesarean section, many patients, they come back saying that there is a small nodule in the scar of their, maybe it is a cesarean section or it may be a small surgery related to uterus, some surgery related to uterus or anything, myomectomy sometimes. So a scar bulges periodically just before menstruation. It becomes very much painful. Even discoloration to a bluish or blackish tinge is also seen in this growth. And after menstruation, within a week, the tube bulge also subsides and the pain will also become less. So this is the typical endometriotic lesion of abdominal wall, usually which develops on the scar tissue of any uterine surgery. Then it can also be seen on vagina and vulva. A bulge or a small growth which will be having bluish tinge or purple tinge will be seen on the fornices, upper, lower or the lateral fornices, or even sometimes on the vulval region. This can be seen. It is a deposit of endometrial tissue during menstruation, or maybe it is congenital. Lungs and pleura, when the endometriotic tissue is situated, it is just like the metaplasia cell theory. So there it is congenital. Patient may develop with the onset of menstruation. She may also have hemoptysis. Then outer coat of uterus. Recently, I heard a case where they were doing cesarean section, and when they remove the uterus out after removal of the placenta, usually to suture the uterus, we take out the uterus. When we took out the uterus, we could find some bulge and very unhealthy tissue on the back side of the uterus. So it was not very clear what pathology it is, but by seeing the unhealthy nature of the tissue, by seeing the rich vascularity, which was almost bleeding just by touching the area also, this rich vascularity is usually seen with endometriosis. Many such cases can be identified while doing the cesarean section. This is nothing but the endometriotic spots on the outer coat of the uterus. Then even on the ovaries, we can see the endometriotic spots, round ligament, uterosacral ligaments, and rectovaginal septum. Also, we can see the deposits of these endometriotic tissues. Usually in the unmarried, I had a case in the very beginning of my career, where in the rectovaginal septum, patient was having a bulge. Of course, she was unmarried, and when we inserted one finger into the vaginal canal, we could find a thick rectal wall or posterior wall of the vagina was very hard with some collection. Fluctuation was also felt, and on per rectal examination also we could find some pad-like structure in between the vaginal wall and the rectal wall. On ultrasonography, we could diagnose that there is around 20 to 30 ml of fluid collection in this rectovaginal septum. So it is a very common area where we can find the deposits of endometrium and cysts developing, or you cannot say it as a cyst also. So in this area, there will be deposition of endometrium, collection of endometriotic fluid in this rectovaginal septal area. Then on the pelvic peritoneum, we can see, sometimes even on the intestines, we can see bladder and ureter are also the places where you can expect endometriotic tissues to grow. And in these cases, you can see hematuria during menstruation. Hematuria during menstruation may be also because of vesico-uterine fistula. But in these cases, without any surgery, without any cause for fistula, you can find hematuria where endometriotic lesions are present within the bladder or ureter. Even on the fallopian tube, outside of the fallopian tube, we can find the ectopic endometriotic lesions. The presentation of the disease is very typical. It is usually remembered with the 5 Ds. The 5 Ds are main is dyspareunia, dysmenorrhea. Usually patients will be presenting with a severe dysmenorrhea in cases of endometriosis. The severe dysmenorrhea, usually it starts a few days prior to the menstruation. Patient will complain of lower abdominal pain, lower back pain, which starts 3-4 days prior to the menstruation, continues throughout the menstruation. Unlike the Udavarta Yonivyapatha or unlike primary dysmenorrhea, it will continue even after the menstruation for few days, then it subsides gradually to reoccur again just before menstruation. 1. Then the dyspareunia, on deep penetration, there will be pain elicited by the patient or pain experienced by the patient. Usually, when the ovaries are adherent to the posterior wall of the uterus or on the pouch of Douglas, they are prolapsed into the pouch of Douglas, there will be severe dyspareunia felt by the patient. Dull abdominal pain or dull ache on the abdomen, or even just before menstruation, they can find bloatedness of the abdomen, even constipation may be seen in these patients. That's again because of the endometriotic lesions which are bleeding during the menstruation, and this deposition of blood in the peritoneal cavity is giving rise to pain in the abdomen. Then dyschezia or pain on defecation, usually the symptom is present when the endometriotic lesions are present on the sigmoid colon, in the sigmoid colon or on the rectal wall. So painful defecation may be there, or even if the rectum is very much adherent to the posterior wall of the uterus. When there is bleeding or free blood in the peritoneal cavity, the adhesions are very common. The entire pelvic organ may be adherent to each other, causing all the movements of the pelvic organs little painful. So that is the reason why there can be painful defecation in cases of endometriosis. Then disorders of menstruation. This spectrum of disorders of menstruation may be right from spotting to excessive bleeding. Usually the classical feature of endometriosis is patient will present you with few days of spotting before menstruation, followed by normal bleeding or excessive bleeding, and again it will be lasting with the episode of or with the course of spotting. The color of the menstrual blood during the spotting phase will be dark color in nature or dark blackish red in color, and of course it will be associated with pain. Or nowadays the presentation varies. It may not be or it need not be in the form of spotting. While studying, we studied it like spotting followed by bleeding, then again followed by spotting is the typical nature of endometriosis. If the patient used to present like this without seeing, we used to diagnose it as a case of endometriosis. But now we even see that the bleeding may be very much excessive with endometriosis also. But the pain component, if it is more along with excessive bleeding, usually our diagnosis would be adenomyosis rather than endometriosis. and this adenomyotic bleeding with the adenomyosis pathology, where within the myometrium, islands of endometrium are present. Due to this collection of fluid, there will be compression over the nerve endings in the myometrium, and this compression is giving rise to pain. It is like ischemic pain again, right? So pain component, if it is predominant, usually the pathology will be adenomyosis, whereas if the dysmenorrhea component is if the pain is not along with the excessive bleeding, pain is not along with the excessive bleeding, then we consider usually it as dysmenorrhea. So then again, site-specific symptoms like hematuria or hemoptysis will be present in the cases of endometriosis, and most commonly the patients who are presenting with infertility and having these Ds, 5 Ds, usually we consider them as endometriotic patients. Infertility is seen around 30 to 50% of and infertility is seen in 50% of endometriosis cases, right? So then coming to the examination finding in these patients, how to diagnose. On per speculum examination, when we insert the hand into the vaginal canal, most often we find a typical roughness or dryness in the vaginal canal. Though the modern texts are not explaining this particular feature, practically we can see the vaginal canal is very much rough or dry, right? Sometimes the deposits of endometriotic spots or black or bluish spots can also be seen on the formicial area or on the vaginal area or on the introital area with the presence of endometriosis. Since the uterus is having fixity or adhesions inside, the cervix is immobile. When you try to move the cervix with the speculum or with the retractor, it is fixed mostly, or if it is extremely retroverted, even the upward facing cervix can also be seen in this condition. On per vaginal examination, yes, dryness of vagina, and when you try to move the uterus, it will be most often fixed. On deep per vaginal examination, or when you try to elicit the findings very invasively, then you will find the tenderness, pelvic tenderness will be elicited, and when you try to move, cervical motion is attempted, move the cervix, then also you can find the tenderness in cases of endometriosis. And in the pouch of Douglas, you will find a characteristic nodularity or irregular surface can be observed in cases of endometriosis. Then in unmarried girls or the virgin ladies, these tests are not possible. In such cases, when you do the rectal examination, same findings may be observed, particularly if rectovaginal septum is involved in the pathology of endometriosis. Even you can find a mass in the area of rectovaginal septum. So this is how clinically we have to diagnose or elicit the case of endometriosis. Then coming to the differential diagnosis, since the dysmenorrhea is very severe in some of the cases, we have to consider all causes of benign or malignant ovarian tumors. Right? So there is a ovarian tumor in these conditions. In the chronic cases of endometriosis, there will be chocolate cyst. So ovarian tumor has to be differentiated. Chronic salpingo-oophorytis is a condition where there can be severe dysmenorrhea. So that condition needs to be differentiated. Chronic pelvic infection needs to be ruled out. In chronic pelvic infection, all the symptoms of the inflammation can be seen. Mucopurulent discharges can be observed. This is how we can differentiate between chronic pelvic infection and endometriosis. Ovarian endometrioma is, of course, a variant of endometriosis. Corpus luteal cyst or neoplasias of neoplastic growths of the ovaries we have to rule out. And all causes of hematuria, if the patient is coming with the symptom of hematuria, right from the urolithiasis, malignancy, etc., all the causes of hematuria we need to keep in mind. Then pain is very intense. When the pain is very intense, maybe intestinal obstruction also needs to be considered when the patient is first time seen with acute episode of adenomyotic or endometriotic pain. Then rupture of chocolate cyst is also a possibility. So in that condition also, all causes of acute abdomen needs to be kept in the mind and differentiated. Hernia or other inguinal swelling, when there is a swelling or when there is a mass palpated in the iliac fossa, bilateral iliac fossa or unilateral iliac fossa, we need to differentiate it from a hernia or other inguinal swellings. Carcinoma of cervix and vagina, if there is a bluish dot on the cervix or in the cornices, we need to differentiate it from carcinomatous growths. And uterine leiomyoma is a very common differential diagnosis which we need to differentiate in cases of endometriosis. Coming to the investigation part, what all investigations we need to carry out. Usually, though we diagnose cases of endometriosis with the help of transabdominal ultrasonography, transabdominal ultrasonography is not a perfect diagnostic mode for the detection of endometriosis. Instead, transvaginal sonography would be more accurate to diagnose than the transabdominal sonography. Then we can also think about CT scan or MRI to diagnose endometriotic lesions in the pelvis. Then laparoscopy is still considered to be a gold standard. In the laparoscopic findings, we can find the typical powder burn lesions in the pelvic peritoneum. There will be just gunpowder-like powder burn lesions. Then there can be dark brown or bluish nodules in the pouch of Douglas, on the posterior surface of the uterus, or maybe on the tubal surface, or it may be on the ovarian surface. White plaques may be present, scarring because of the old blood which has resulted into scarring may be seen, or clear vesicles may be seen. Yeah, last cesarean section, when I was opening the uterus, the entire peritoneum over the uterus was like filled with vesicles, small white patches and fluid filled lesions like. So this kind of vesicles can also be seen. Pseudocysts may be seen, or yellowish brown color of the peritoneum. Here and there, the deposits of yellowish brown fluid on the peritoneum, that can also be seen, and there will be extensive adhesions with endometriosis. When you open the uterus, maybe for any surgeries, you will find a dense adhesion of the pelvic peritoneum with the adjacent organs. It is the commonest finding with the endometriosis. So laparoscopy is considered to be, any international studies on endometriosis will accept only the laparoscopic diagnosis as a confirmed diagnosis of endometriosis. Then coming to the inflammatory markers or the markers for endometriosis, CA125, if it is more than 37, then considered to be a marker for endometriosis. Recently, 19.9, CA 19.9 is also developed as a latest marker for the endometriosis, diagnosis of endometriosis. Then coming to the biomarkers of growth factor or biomarkers for the angiogenesis, such as the tumor necrosis factor, tumor growth factor B1, annexin-1, vascular endothelium growth factor, neurogenic growth factor, FGF2, all these biomarkers in the peritoneal fluid, if can be extracted or if they can be collected and tested for the presence of these, their presence or inflammatory markers. As such, inflammatory markers of the peritoneum can also be a marker for diagnosis of endometriosis. Coming to the clinical practice, the easiest is transvaginal sonography. It's more nearer to the laparoscopic findings. So we can use, if facilities are available, TVS can be used for the diagnosis of endometriosis. To see the improvement of endometriosis, maybe CA125 or CA19 can also be measured to see the improvement in the clinical condition after, before and after treatment. And at the same time, if the facilities are available for laparoscopic examination, then before and after examination, after treatment, laparoscopy, if can be documented, it will be wonderful task to prove the efficacy of Ayurvedic treatment in the management of endometriosis. When we do the laparoscopy, we find certain findings. So they can be documented in the given chart, and accordingly they will be graded. So the gradation of endometriosis can be said further as if the severity of the disease can be assessed, like if it is ovary, bilateral ovaries, whether involved. If it is peritoneum, if on both sides endometrium, the peritoneum is involved, whether the peritoneal involvement is only superficial, whether the peritoneal involvement is deep. So based on this, the grades are given, and everywhere, if it is more than 3, it is to be considered as very severe. Even the adhesion is marked with the left ovary flimsy adhesions, right ovary flimsy adhesions, left ovary dense adhesions, right ovary dense adhesions. Similarly, tube is also seen or examined, and it is marked or it is graded for its intensity of endometriosis. So when the based on these findings of laparoscopy, minimal endometriosis is considered as a stage 1, where the score is in between 1 to 5. Mild endometriosis is considered to be the stage 2 or grade 2 endometriosis, where the score ranges between 6 to 15. And if the score is somewhere in between 60 to 40, it is moderate or stage 3 endometriosis. And if the stage 4 or grade 4 severe endometriosis is there, then the score will be above 40. And these conditions will be usually the cemented pelvis-like condition. All the organs in the pelvic cavity will be almost adherent, densely adherent with each other, right? So this is all what we see in the modern texts regarding the endometriosis. There will be a question whether Ayurveda said a similar condition to explain this endometriosis-like condition. So if we screen the text, Aptopadesha says that one condition where Vatalahara Chestayaha, Vatalayaha Sameranaha. So Vatalayaha, so the Vata Prakriti patients, particularly the patients who are of Vata Prakriti, if they indulge in Vatala Ahara and Chesta, Vata getting Prakupita or Vivradha, Yonim Ashritya takes shelter in the Yoni and causes the disease Yoni Vyapa, Vatala Yoni Vyapa. In this particular disease, you will find Yoni Toda, Toda is Tudyateti, Todaha, Vedana, there will be severe pain. Stambha, Stambha can be interpreted. Toda and Vedana are the different kinds of pains experienced by the patient. Stambha is something which is examined by an examiner. So when we were talking about the examination of the patient, we said that there is a fixity. You cannot move the uterus. So uterus feels very much fixed in its area. Cervical motion also causes severe pain to the patient. So this can be compared to Stambha, this as a sign of endometriosis. Then Pipilika Sraptimiva Karkashatam Tatha. Last week, I had a patient who was a 22-23-year-old girl. She came with the severe dysmenorrhea. While explaining, she herself said that I feel like something is creeping inside the vaginal canal. I was just surprised to see, because first time I was also listening this kind of narration by the patient, that to a young girl of 22 years old. I stopped her and I asked her, I drawn the attention of my interns there who were in my OPD. I said, repeat what you said. She said, I felt like ants are creeping, some creature is creeping inside the vagina. I was very much thrilled to hear this from patient, because often I explain the students that our acharyas have recorded whatever they heard from the patients. So it's subjective. Almost all our features, disease narrations are subjective in nature. So I called all my people who were around the OPD and asked the patient to repeat. She was confused why I'm making her to repeat this statement again and again. Then I explained her, but it was the first time where patient was giving me this Pipilika Sraptim Iva. So this particular pain feeling, it's not a pain, it's a discomfort rather. So something is creeping inside. This particular feeling is given by the patient. Of course, she was a case of Vatala Yoni Vyapar, had dysmenorrhea in the early phase of menstruation. All these features were there. And I said there will be roughness in the vaginal canal, dryness in the vaginal canal. That is nothing but Karkashatantata. And Karoti Supti, when there is lack of moisture, naturally on the Karkasha skin, the feelings may not be, even it may be pleasure or it may be pain, cannot be felt very particularly. So this will be there. And while I was reading a latest edition of Novax, I read that there is these patients will be having lassitude, or it is written that without any strain also patient will be always tiredness. This particular feature was written in the modern text, right? Suptim ayasam is exactly the tiredness experienced by the patient. So this particular explanation of ayasa was not there in the olden editions. In the new edition of the book, I could find this ayasa. I was about to say Eureka then when I read that Supti Mayasam. So every feature they are adding now, we are getting all these features one by one in cases of endometriosis, which has already been explained by Vataja Yoni Vyapar by our Acharyas. So Vatajamscha, Aparan, Gadan. In these Aparan, Gadan, you can include all the features like it may be lower abdominal pain, it may be backache, it may be leg pains, restless leg syndrome, which are experienced by the patients. And Sasya, Sa Shabda, Ruk, Fena, Tanu, Ruksha, Artava, Anilat. So this Artava Lakshanas will be usually with the Vata Dushti of Artava. Wherever Vata predominance is seen in the Artava Lakshanas, Artava, we can see this Rup, Vedana Yukta Strava, Sa Shabda Strava. Sa Shabda Strava is usually not experienced by all the patients. Rarely you may find 1 in 500 patients or so, you will find that patient experiences flatulence, vaginal flatulence, as if some gas is passing through the vaginal canal. So when it passing through this Shabdata can be felt. And Fena Yukta, when water is mixed with the menstrual blood, a lot of Fena comes. Recently one study was going on in Roganidana department. She was talking about, she was working on different colors of the menstruation. What were the Shuddhatava Lakshanas? In diseased conditions, what variations she could see. She could find very clearly that wherever the water is mixed with the Vata Dushta Artava, lot of Fena coming out. So Fena is relatively linked with the Ruksha Artava also, Tanu and Ruksha Artava also. So this kind of Artava Dushti or Artava Lakshanas or the characteristics of menstruation can be observed in these patients. Then in Vagbhata's explanation, he also said that Vamshana Parshvadau Vyatha. So in the entire pelvic girdle, there will be pain in case of endometriosis. That has been explained by Vagbhata, and he has given Kramasho Gulma, Gulmam Kramena Cha. So this Kramena Gulma word is very important for us, wherein it is denoting that in the initial phases it may be limited only to the symptoms like dysmenorrhea, like Karkashata, etc. And in gradual course, this particular disease is progressing to some space occupying, formation of some space occupying lesion such as Gulma. So a chocolate cyst or an endometriotic cyst has also been observed by our Acharyas, or formation of this lesion is also noted by our Acharyas. That is why they have very clearly explained this as Gulma under Vataja Yoni Vyapar. Even in the complications of Yoni Vyapar, Pradara Gulma Arshad means Cha. So Gulma is explained as a common complication of all the Yoni Vyapars, particularly in Vatala Yoni Vyapar. Again, they have repeated that Gulma formation is possible in Vatala Yoni Vyapar. So if you see the incidences of endometriosis, even though modern texts do not admit that such a predisposition in certain constitutional patients, in the patients who are having a certain constitution, they noted that genetic predisposition of the disease is seen in certain families. It runs in certain families. So epigenetic influence, or you can say the genetic code imprinted in certain phenotypic patients or characteristics is very well observed in all the patients for this particular disease. But the expression of that gene or expression of that particular pathology will be evident or will be seen only in the patients where the environment and other factors are favoring for the expression of that gene. That is why even if the patient is Vatala or Vata Prakriti, if Vatala Ahara and Cheshta, Yoni Vyapat Utpada Upadarshanaartha. So Vatika Yoni Vyapat Utpada Upadarshanaartham. So if the Nidanas for the predisposition or occurrence of Vatala Yoni Vyapat are practiced by the patient, then only the disease will manifest. If she is not indulging in these set of nidanas, probably she may not have the expression of the disease, even though it is present in her genetic imprint or epigenetic influence. Even if it is there, it may not be expressed. So that is why Vata Prakriti patient, Acharya said that Vata Prakriti patient should do these activities. Pitta Prakriti patient should do these kind of food and ahara viharas, achara and ahara viharas. So by that, even though Prakriti is favoring a certain disease or certain set of diseases, they can still prevent those diseases by involving in the negating factors of expression of that particular disease. The modern texts do not admit that it is a lifestyle disorder. It's not a lifestyle disorder according to them, but my observation in the patients are, though the patient is Vata Prakriti, or even if they are not Vata Prakriti sometimes, then also if they indulge in Vatakara Nidanas, particularly the girls who are working for IT, night shifts, untimely food habits, no snehana, and a lot of stress. One patient I remember, she was a gynec PG. She read for 1 year for entrance examination, modern gynec PG. She read for entrance examination day and night for 1 year. During that, she had started to have this severe dysmenorrhea. Then she got admission into gynec PG at a college in Davangere College. She joined gynec department. She was diagnosed there as endometriosis. By then she got married also. Then first year PG was everywhere it is so. First year PG is very hectic, particularly for the gynec department. Almost 3 or 4 days in a week, they cannot sleep. That much heavy, and that Davangere hospital was having almost 700 to 1000 deliveries. You can imagine the workload on that poor girl. So naturally, her disease went so severe that she was unable to withstand the pain even after painkillers. Then she underwent adenolysis, laparoscopic adenolysis and cyst removal. In spite of that, she continued to have this pain. Then she was by then married also. So there was pressure from her in-laws. She went for IVF. IVF was a failure. Then her parents were patients of our hospital. So forcibly her mother brought the doctor patient to us. Then we gave her treatment. After 2-3 settings of Shodhana and Basti, she went again for IVF. And last March, she delivered twin babies, Corona season. So this is ahara, nidra, untimely food, untimely sleep habits, lot of stress. Every delivery case is a stress. Those who are involved in this work particularly can understand the huge amount of stress related with the delivery cases. So she had subjected to that kind of lifestyle, maybe ahara, vihara and nidra. So the expression of the genes are controlled by our lifestyle and what we eat. So definitely, though the modern text says that it is not a lifestyle disorder, I still emphasize that Vatalahara Chestayaha, Vatalayaha Samiranaha is the cause for Vatalayoniya. Then coming to the Ayurvedic differential diagnosis, if we see, it may be different pain-dominated conditions. What we have to consider, Vatala, Udavarta, Vipluta, Paripluta, and Antarmukhi. If you closely examine or if you remember whatever I said, Vatala Yoni Vyapat, all the features we discussed. Udavarta is Tivra Vedana, Ruja. So this is seen in Udavarta Yoni. Viplutakya, Pariplutaya, Gramya, Viplutaya, Nitya Vedana. So every day there will be pain, Prashta, Vankshana, Vedana, or in the endometriotic lesions throughout the month, maybe a few days in between, there is a relaxed period. And Pariplutaya, Gramya Dharme, Rukh Brasham, This feature is also seen, and Antarmukhi, there is displacement of the cervix. Antarmukhi can also be seen. And Vataja Artavadushti, the Vataja Lakshanas are seen in the menstrual blood, and adenomyotic lesions or endometriosis with excessive bleeding will still have Vataja Asraddhara Lakshanas. If we look into the commentary of Chakrapani, he says that in all Vataja, Pittaja, Kaphaja and Sanipataja Yoni Vyapat, there will be Vataja Asraddhara overlapping features of Vataja Asraddhara. If Vatala Yoni Vyapat is not controlled in time, as a complication of Vatala Yoni Vyapat, you will find Vataja Asraddhara also. So, endometriosis cases, though to start with spotting, then spotting, normal bleeding, if not controlled or if the Nidana Sevana is not interrupted, then Vataja Asraddhara Lakshanas can also will get added to this endometriosis or Vatala Yoni Vyapat. Then coming to the treatment aspect, in the modern science, achieving pregnancy is the best treatment during 9 months of pregnancy and a few months post-lactational period. There will not be any menstruation. If there is no menstruation, there is no formation of cyst, there is no bleeding inside, there is no adhesion. All the pathology, if it is minimal pathology or if it is a mild to moderate grade of endometriosis, it will get reversed by itself. Creating a pseudo pregnancy, if pregnancy cannot be achieved, then they opt for the option like creating a pseudo pregnancy like condition. So pseudo pregnancy like a condition can be created with continuous intake of progesterone pills, one, or it can also be done with a combined oral contraceptive pills. It can also be done with suppressing the natural release of hormones by any means, or androgens to combat the estrogen production, or gonadotropic release agonists can be given. So all these will have their own side effects. When the natural release of the hormones are suppressed, naturally osteoporosis, or if you are giving analogs for androgens, androgen analogs or GnRH agonists, all these are given, there will be a lot of side effects of taking. Even denazole can be given. So in all these conditions, you will have side effects of these drugs. Then surgical management is laparoscopic. Usually laparoscopic adenolysis is done. Cyst, if it is there, it is removed, and these burnout lesions, powder burn lesions, or whatever lesions, endometriotic lesions are seen, they are just burnt and removed out. That can be done, or surgical management clubbed with post-surgical oral contraceptive pills. So combined management is also there. But whatever mode of treatment modern science is offering for endometriosis, it's not of devoid of side effects. One, it's not that comfortable to the patient, or it is not also giving desired results. Recently, I had a patient who was 22-year-old, IT sector, of course. Her father himself is an anesthetist. They observed bilateral cyst in this and got operated. 3 months she was on oral, not 3 months, I think 6 months she was on oral contraceptive pills. At the end of 6 months, when they went for ultrasonography, she never had menstruation. In spite of that, there was a 2 to 3 centimeter cyst again in one side of the ovary. So it is not at all a complete treatment for endometriosis. So coming to the Ayurveda, sarvam yapana yonintu karma bihi vamanadi bihi. Then Radubihi Panchabihi Nari Snigdha Swinnam Upachare Sarvatah Suvishuddhayaha Shesham Karma Vidiyate. This is the common chikitsa for all Yoni Vyapats. Yoni Vyapa chikitsa basically is very easy, provided patient should be ready to undergo all these treatments. So Pancha Shodhana karmas should be done in all patients of Yoni Vyapats. So after Snehana, Swedana, Shodhana karmas are to be adopted. Usually this is endometriosis is a condition of Vata predominance, as we discussed earlier. So Vata, Dosha, Shamaka, Chikitsa is the main line of. That is why Nahi Vatadati Yonihi Narinam Sampradushyati Shamayitva Tamanyasya Kuryadoshasya Veshajam Pratidosham Sadhyasu Snehadi Kramaishyati Dadyad Uttarabastincha Visheshena Yathodikam. So I have not tried Uttarabasti in case of endometriosis because the cause of endometriosis itself we discuss as retrograde menstruation. By chance, if we push any of the endometriotic pieces into the endometrium, into the exterior or into the pelvic peritoneum, again the disease may exacerbate. That is why I do not try intrauterine bastis in these conditions. Right? So instead, intravaginal Uttar bastis can be very well given in this condition. Recently, we had a patient of IBS with the chocolate cyst, with PCOD, so many, it was a Bahudosha Avastha like condition. So in that patient, I was not very much willing to give Uttarabasti, but I had to give some treatment. So vaginal Uttarabasti, we filled the vaginal canal, keeping the back of the patient, and keeping a pillow under the back of the patient, gluteal region of the patient. So filled the vaginal canal with Vatahara Taila, around 20 to 30 ml inside, and it is left for 20 minutes lukewarm. So this kind of Uttarabastis can be adopted in this condition. Discussion on Shodhana. Since Pitta is also involved here, Vata is there, and adenomyotic like condition where you will find excessive bleeding like. So in these conditions, Virechana can be adopted where there is excessive bleeding. So initially we go with the Shodhana Virechana, then we opt for Bastis, right? So in the Vishesha Chikitsa also, Trivartam Snehanam Svedu, Brahmyana Udakarasaha, Dashamula Payo Bastischa, Udavarta Anilartishu, Trivaratena Anuvasyacha, Bastischa Uttara Samyataha. So Mradu Vamana, if the patient is Kapha Prakriti and because of severe indulgence into Vatavardhaka Nidanas, if she gets this, then we opt for Vamana. Otherwise, if excessive bleeding is the condition, then we give Virechana as the Chikitsa. Basti, as text says, Dashamula Payobastischa. So Dashamula Payobasti is the treatment. If there is endometriotic lesions, Gratitha Avastha of the dosha, maybe to start with, if the patient's Bala is also strong, Dashamula Ksharabasti by adding Gomutra. Sometimes we go for Ksharabastis, then you can go for Dashamula Kshirabasti or Dashamula Nirohabasti. Sometimes if the patient is not of Pitta, if Kapha Prakriti, then Dashamula Nirohabasti can also be given. If not, then Dashamula Kshirabasti is typically Vata Prakriti with Ruksha Sharira, Vatahara. This Payobasti is the best Chikitsa. And the Shamana Aushadhis usually Shamana Aushadhis are prescribed based on the presentation of the patient. So some case, do I have time, Vignesh?
Yes, ma'am, we have time, but we will just cut short the Q&A, but definitely we need to continue your presentation.
Okay, so Soumya Kumari was a patient who was having grade 3 endometriosis. I think she underwent laparoscopic surgery also. Bilateral cystectomy she underwent, and after 2 years of cystectomy, again she had 5 to 6 centimeter sized cysts bilaterally, and her pain was so severe that she was having only some 5 days gap in between 2 cycles. Like once the pain starts, and after 1 week or 10 days after the pain starts, she will menstruate. Then menstruation pain continues. Post menstruation 1 week there will be pain. There will be a gap of 1 week which is pain free. So she was just 34 years. That is why hysterectomy was not considered in her case. But anyhow, she wanted pain relief, and she has suffered all the side effects of the hormonal pills. She was not ready to continue with that. She was from Karkala, and she approached us. We gave her a course of Virechana, followed by Dashamula Kshirabastis. 2-3 sittings of Dashamula Kshirabastis have gone, and Kashmariyadi Gratha. I think probably you only provided me Kashmiri then.
Yes, madam, we provided you that.
So we did Kashmiri Adigratha with that Kashmiri Phala and with that Kashmiri Adigratha, and I think Chitraka Granthadi Kashaya we gave. Chitraka Granthadi Kashaya I prefer usually in cases of Gratitha Avastha. Wherever there is cyst formation, I opt for this Chitraka Granthadi Kashaya. With this combination, she conceived. It was totally to my surprise. I never expected her to conceive because her pain was so intense, and she never had a dream that she will conceive. And her only concern was pain relief. But surprisingly, after 3-4 months of treatment, she conceived 1 child. After 1 child, 2nd child, within 1.5 years, without her knowledge, she conceived 2nd time also. And now she is proud mother of 2 children. different. So this is one case of Soumya Kumari. Another patient was from Kundapur, Lanchana Shetty. She was having severe dyspareunia. Moderate dysmenorrhea was there, but after laparoscopic surgery, her dysmenorrhea has been reduced, but dyspareunia factor was very prominent. She was tall, lanky, typical Vata Prakriti look was there in that patient, and her activities, everything was reminding us that she is Vata Prakriti, that kind of patient. In her also, all the treatments were same, but for overcoming this dyspareunia, she was given with the vaginal pichu whole 1 week, and even after going home, even after the Shodhana, we advised her to continue Halagrata instillation into the vaginal canal. Where Uttar Basti cannot be practiced, you can advise patient to have some installation of Grata or Taila into the vaginal canal. So that had taken care of her dyspareunia. She conceived. After 2 sittings of Basti, she conceived. Only Basti we opted, since she was typical Vata Prakriti. We did not opt for any Virechana treatment in her. Sneha Nitya Virechana with Dhanarvastadi Taila was given, and after that Basti was administered. With the 2 sittings or 3 sittings of Basti, she conceived. But unfortunately, since she was from Kundapura, after conception, she continued there. Vata was so predominant and abnormal in her body that it did not allow the pregnancy to continue till end. She landed up in abortion by second 2.5 months. Right? Though we were successful, continuation of that Vatahara Chikitsa was not done by the patient, and that is why she ended up with abortion. So that is second case, Lanchana Shetty. Then one more case of Lavanya. In her, infertility was the condition, and the same similar treatment with Kashmiri Adigrata and Bala Guduchi Adi Kashaya. Bala and Guduchi both are immunomodulators. So infertility was only the complaint there without any other symptoms. And so in Lavanya, Bala Guduchi Adi Kashaya with Kashmiri Adigrata was the drug of choice. So we gave and she conceived. And Jyoti Amin was the patient where excessive bleeding with very intense pain was there. In this patient, I think we have given her Dashamula Dashamula Kshira Niruha Basti only, and Pittahara Chikitsa was also given along with all routine this treatment. Pushyanuga Nagakeshara combination, I believe. Pushyanuga Nagakeshara Rajata Basma, which is having which helps in the conception of the patient. Rajata Basma Pravala Peshti. So this combination was good in that patient. And one more was Geeta patient, where she had 5 to 6 centimeter bilateral cysts. 5 to 6 centimeter bilateral cysts were there. She was Pitta Vata Pitta Prakriti. She was no typical Vata Prakriti, but physically she was Vata Pitta Prakriti with the features of Vata Sattva. Manasika bhavas were very much of Vartika. So in that patient, I think Kaishara Gogulu, Kaishara Gogulu and Lodra Sava, she had excessive bleeding, very much excessive bleeding. Lodra Sava, Nimbamrita Sava, all these combinations, different combinations were given in her. But it took almost a year. In between, she used to go anemic for 2 months. Her anemia is treated. Then again, treatment is given for her cyst. Like this, almost in 1 year, we could clear her both cysts. Right? So like this, you can do your own combinations, permutation combinations. It's not that difficult to treat the condition. Whatever medicine, I never go for very rare prescriptions. Whatever prescriptions, the permutation combination of those medicines. The list of combinations, list of drugs, maybe you can see Gandharva Astadi Kashaya, you can see Kalyanaka Guda, you can see Sukumara Grata, you can see Indukanta Grata, you can see Shatavari Grata, Kashmiri Adi Grata, Chitraka Granthiyadi Kashaya, then Musalika Deradi Kashaya, Nimbamrita Sava, Balaguduchadi Kashaya. So my prescriptions will be ranging within these only. And of course, Brahadvata Chintamani with gold is gold standard in all these conditions. We can opt for Brahadvata Chintamani with gold or Garbhapala Rasa wherever the condition necessitates. So I think that's all.
Oh, thank you so much, madam. This was a very insightful, especially considering your experience. I mean, the most important thing was you're sharing your experience, which we can definitely relate. Madam, before we go into the question answer session, I just invite Dr. Ragesh Chiran, the General Manager, to show one product. Dr. Chiran, can you?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome once again from Sitaram Ayurveda. Sitaram Ayurveda, 100 years of healing legacy. I would like to thank Mamta ma'am for this nice presentation that you upon a subject which is being expected by everybody, which everybody wants to know more about. Now, I would like to share few details of few of the products which Sitaram Ayurveda is having in this regard. First of all, it is our TA tablets. TA tablets is basically meant for handling or managing iron deficiency anemia. It's basically a combination of Triphala, Kasisa Basma, or Annabeti Sindura, and HT Madhu. The importance of this yoga is that this has taken out all the side effects of iron intake, or usually when we are giving Lohosma, etc. The side effects are being felt. In the case of our TA tablets, since we are using Kasisa Basma, that too along with Triphala and HT Madhu, it's not giving any side effects. It's very fast in action. It effectively enhances the rate of iron absorption, quickly improves hemoglobin count, and there are no side effects like constipation and gastric irritation. It is a safe and economic imagining, especially for teenagers who are having extra bleeding, which leads to loss of iron. And it's also very safe in pregnant women. It's effective, very effective in iron deficiency anemia. The dosage is 1 to 2 BAD after food. So here is our TI tablet, the sure and safe iron supplement. Now, I would like to inform you all that ma'am was telling about Chitraga Grindhigadi Kashayam. It's a rare product, not being manufactured by many of the companies. But fortunately, we are having Chitraga Grindhigadi Kashayam. We manufacture it and it is freely available in the market. So we are having Chitraga Grindhigadi Kashayam, which is being used in such disorders, problems related with gynecology. Now, to introduce you to another very rare product, we manufacture Kaudaja Triphala Lehyam. Kaudaja Triphala Lehyam is from the Pandu Chikilsa Prakarana in Ashtadhya, etc. Basically, it contains Shilajadu. Shilajadu is 21 times Bhavidam in a quada of Kodaja, Triphala, Nimba, Padola, Gana, etc. And it is added with Amshirojana, Pipali, Datri, and Karkadaga. And the base is Sita and Madhu. It's in a Lehyam form, Kaudaja Triphala. The indication, since it is from Pandu Prakarana, Pandu Chikilsa Prakarana, the base indication is Pandu, also Kushtam and Pliha. Along with, since it is a Shilajadu combination, it is very effective in Mutradosham and also Prameham. It is very good in handling the different insulin-related problems, and hence it is very effective in handling the conditions like PCOD, PCOS, various conditions of Asardaram, Ulmam, etc. also. The dosage, as mentioned in the textbook, is Aksha Sammam, that is roughly around 12 to 15 gram. And the Anupanam, as mentioned in the text, is Dadimarasam or Shiram or Asavam, etc. etc. So here is our Kaudaja Triphala Lehyam, which is very effective in Pandu Chikilsa as well as conditions associated with various gynecological problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Chiran. Dr. Mamta Madam, now we'll go into the Q&A sessions.
Yes.
So, Madam, first of all, again, we are getting a fantastic feedback that it was really an excellent speech. So it was really an honor for us to have you. So, Madam, one question which I was thinking when you were explaining all this thing, especially with the modern medicine, because they don't consider this as a lifestyle disease. And also, you know, it's very important that you mentioned about the epigenetic concept, that we can actually control the expression of the genes with our Aharam and Viharam. Now, I'm sure many Ayurvedic doctors who encounter with patients suffering with endometriosis will be, most of the patients would have gone to an allopathic gynecologist. They would have got their diagnosis. They would have undergone their treatment. And they would have really got into so much of anxiety after going into Google and reading so many of this is an incurable stuff. And as a last resort, they would come to an Ayurvedic doctor. And at that time, we will be like, we have no other choice. We are like the doctors for the leftover patients at that time. So, madam, when they come, which are the cases that we have to be very careful? And at the same time, when they are coming with how to understand these are the cases that we can definitely treat, and what would be the preparation that we have to tell them? Okay, you have to be prepared for this many months in order to have a result. Even they expect something like a allopathic tablet. We have some herbal medicines, but of course, it is much more like a holistic approach. We have to change the Vedic lifestyle that is creating that. So, what would be the counseling that we have to be prepared when it comes to such patients?
The counseling aspect, if you ask me, counseling is already explained what the Prakriti it is. So whatever Vatakara Ahara Viharas, we have to ask them to negate, leave it, abandon it, one thing. And Nitya Abhyanga is what the best they can continue with, that they can go for. And Kshira Grata Sevana. As a daily routine, they can go for Kshira Grata Sevana, that can be adopted by the patient. And regarding your question of which cases we can take, which cases we cannot, this is a difficult task, because you have to see how long the patient suffered from the disease, what is the extent of, I said the example of Soumya Kumari.
Yes.
I never expected that she will conceive. We are trying our little best to cure the disease. Left is not in our hand. With that attitude, probably we need to treat the patients. It depends on their obedience, how much they will continue with our advices. That gives them the result. Their belief, their faith on the treatment, and their obedience regarding our following of our advices. That is one aspect. Then some patients, even though you have an option, they may not be ready to get admitted and continue with the treatment. That is second option. Only Shamana Aushadhis you need to give them. So in these Shamana Aushadhis, expected results may not come often.
Okay.
Then it's a long-standing disease, chronic disease. So Shodhana is a must. Nowhere in classics also it is said that you straight away go for Shamana Aushadhi. Shodhana is required. After Shodhana, maybe it is Mradu Shodhana, but after Shodhana, if you go for the treatment, then the results would be more. Right? For prognosis purpose, if you are asking me, you can go for an ASRM, American Society of Reproductive Medicine. They have a classification of the disease. They give some criteria like whether the patient is menopausal. If menopausal, the scoring is 1. Premenopausal scoring is 1. Menopausal scoring is 3. Then they classify depending on ultrasound features. If it is multiloculated, then the 0. If it is a solid area, then 1. Like this, bilateral. If ascites is present, metastasis is present, that is grade 0 to 3 they give. Then depending on the CA 125, it is absolute level, normal, then the grade is less. Or that can also be considered as, then all these first criteria A, second criteria B, and third criteria, that is CA 125 is 3, C. So A into B into C, multiply, and this malignancy index, by multiplying this, malignancy index can be calculated. If the RMI index is less than 25, the incidence of risk factor is low. If the RMI is in between 25 to 250, then it is of moderate risk. If it is more than 250, then the risk is high.
Okay, ma'am.
So this classification can be considered, or gradation we discussed earlier, like bilateral adhesions, tubal, ovary involvement, or peritoneal involvement. Grade 40 and anything above 40 is severe. So such cases may be difficult to treat. So based on that also we can consider.
Okay, ma'am.
If we are considering from the Ayurvedic point of view, Navatva of the Vyadi, Yavana of the patient. So
all of that has to be considered.
Yeah, all those factors has to be considered. Gratitavastha of the doshas. But one thing is clear, if the dysmenorrhea is addressed properly with the Nidana Parivarjana in the beginning itself, those cases may not progress into endometriosis.
That is why we say Chayameva Jaya Dosham. We have to create there itself.
Yes.
So
mothers, very particularly, they have to educate the mothers not to go for only painkillers during this dysmenorrheic phase of their teenagers, because it's more prevalent in teenage girls nowadays. Though it was said earlier that in 30s the disease will be affecting. So the roots of the disease starts right from early.
Yes. And madam, what if they are been constantly taking contraceptive pills? Like you said, pseudo pregnancy is one of the ways of this. If they have been taking it, and how do we handle such patients? They will be asking, should I do Ayurvedic treatment along with that? And what will be the protocol? When they ask such questions, how do we handle that?
See, leaving oral contraceptive pills is their choice. We can say our treatment options. Usually I say it's left to you. If you want to continue with it, it's your option. If you have faith on ourselves, don't sail on two boats. So if you have faith, totally follow us. Because when we are giving Shodhana, they cannot continue with the oral contraceptive pills. So when they leave the oral contraceptive pills, naturally there will be a menstruation.
Definitely.
So during Shodhana, if you leave oral contraceptive pills and come for Shodhana, in between Shodhana, there can be
menstrual
a
cycle.
Yeah, menstrual cycle. So leave it, stabilize, then you come back. That is
Okay.
also possible.
And ma'am, if they come with the, we need to definitely, in some cases, we might have to deal with the symptomatic relief also. Sometimes the pain can be too much. And they are asking, what can we do in such cases? If there is a severe pain, as an Ayurvedic doctor with our limitations, what can we do in such that?
Udavarta Chikitsa,
Udavarta Chikitsa.
Tripla, or Dantyadi, Dantyarishta, or Dhanvantaravati, Mahadhanvantara Gulika, or Kankayana Gutika, Kshara also, long standing, Mahayoga Jagubulu, Yoga Rajagubulu, all these, Anulomana, Tripla, simple Tripla, Gandharvastari Kashaya, all these, whatever we give for their disease pathology, that take care of this Anulomana. Every prescription, there should be something which does Anulomana, because retrograde menstruation and Udavarta is the pathology.
Pathology, yes.
Pathology. Vata Anulomana is to be achieved. So all these prescriptions, whatever we are giving, all of them are having Anulomana component in it. So Bharavrata you take. So everywhere there is Anulomana.
Fantastic. Ma'am, I think listening to your whole presentation, if we have to sum up the treatment protocol, in severe cases, it is very similar to treating Kevala Vata case. At the same time, treatment of Udavarta is there. And at the same time, we have to handle with, could there be a possibility of, blending with polycystic ovarian syndrome also along with this, in your experience?
I don't think polycystic ovarian disease and this go hand in hand, because polycystic ovarian disease, most often it is of Santarpana Nidana, whereas this is Apatarpana Nidana.
But was there any cases in your history where both of them came also?
Yes, both of them in Kapha predominant patients, where Vata Prakopa was there, because basically they were Kapha predominant, and Vata took over this Kapha. There was polycystic, one case I said, IBS, polycystic ovarian disease, chocolate. All the three were there. It can be seen, but it is not the usual presentation.
It's quite rare.
Yeah, quite rare. Maybe we have Shitaruksha and Shitaruksha Nidanas. Shitaruksha Nidanas, if causing the Vikrati, then it can also go for Kapha.
Kapha, okay.
Kapha Vata together. There Nimbanga Tasava will be the prescription.
Definitely.
Vata Kapahara.
Ma'am, we have one question. Madam, according to you, can we classify the prognosis of endometriosis as Kritsrasadya Yapya Vyadhi in relation to the degree of severity on the site of the lesion? And in that case, in your experience, how long does it take to treat the patient symptomatically and objectively? Thank you. Dr. Shruti Patil.
You cannot say any disease like how the disease itself is difficult, Krachra, Yapya, or all those things. Vaya, Puranatva of the Vyadhi, Nidana, continuation of Nidana Parivarjana aspect of the patient, everything we need to consider from one side. And the second aspect is, when you are treating the patient, you should also go for that classical laparoscopic findings. That can also be considered, and malignant index, that can also be considered to predict the prognosis of the patient should be.
Okay. We have some people who have raised their hand. Dr. Geeta Kiran, if you may ask your question.
Madam, good morning, madam. Thank you so much. Ma'am, I have a patient with adenomyosis associated with PCOS, ma'am. I treated her symptomatically. Her pain has come down, and Shodhana was also done, but she's unable to conceive. What could be the line of treatment to induce her ovulation, ma'am? Can you please help me?
Adenomyosis with the polycystic ovary. Will you repeat again? Your voice is breaking. Not very clearly. It's not at all audible now.
No, ma'am. We will go for another question and maybe we can come back to her.
Good morning, ma'am.
Dr. Sadanandan Patil? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Madam, thank you for your wonderful presentation. Regarding Basti, you said Dashmolak Shirabasti or Dashmola Basti or Dashmolak Sharabasti. What about Anvasana, madam? Which medicine?
If there is a lesion, we go for Karpa Sastyadi Taila Vata, Maha Infertility, Maha Narayana Taila, or Maha Vishnu Taila can also be given. Or if the patient is very much Ruksha, and if she is predominantly Vata Prakriti, even Galak Shilapala can be given. Depending on the condition, if the pain factor is more severe, then Maha Narayana Taila. Like this, you can do the permutation combination.
No, for which medicine usually you prefer, madam, regularly?
All these. I'm not saying anything which I have not practiced. Mahavishnu Taila in case of infertility I have given. Mahanarayana with excessive bleeding or with the severe pain. Mahanarayana. If only Granthi is present, symptoms are not there, then Karpa Sastyadi Taila also I have given. All these combinations.
Is it Yoga Basti or Kala Karma?
It's usually female patients, they won't stay for 15 days with me. So usually it is 7 days.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sadanand Patil. Ma'am, one question, Dr. Namrata, 35-year-old lady having complaint of excessive bleeding with clots only 1 day and 2 to 3 day normal bleeding with excessive pain, weakness, 30 to 32 days cycle, 3 to 4 days bleeding. Now USG normal, before 1 year USG, bulky uterus with changes, adenomyosis. Please help for the line of treatment.
Usually adenomyosis patients will not revert back to normal. If it is bulky, it will not come back again to normal uterus. This is very rare. So not sure whether it is a USG variation or what. Usually with adenomyosis, excessive bleeding and pain, my combination is Pichabasti.
Okay, yeah.
Almaliniviasa, Pichabastis are given. Yes, that Pramila patient which I quoted, I was forgetting that what I have given for her, that's why I skipped it. She was a case of adenomyosis and she had conceived once and she had a baby. Second time she aborted at 6 months or so, and postnatally she developed this adenomyosis, maybe due to sorrow, Vata Prakopa Nidana, that Shoka, and maybe Sutika Paricharya was not proper. She developed adenomyosis with very severe bleeding. And 3 courses of Pichabasti. After this course of Pichabasti, she conceived. She did not have a problem for conception, but adenomyosis was diagnosed. She had all the features of adenomyosis also, and the course of Pichabasti has helped her to conceive again.
Okay, fantastic. Ma'am, do you see correlation with IBS also a lot coming along with endometriosis?
No, usually I do not. But one case which I quoted, that patient I had IBS with endometriosis.
Okay, fine. And ma'am, there is one thing that I have seen in many cases with endometriosis, they all have also issues of anxiety.
Yes, exactly.
So, treatment of anxiety should also be parallelly done with this. I think that will also help them to.
Yeah, maybe. True.
Yes. One question. Namaste, madam. Dr. Radha Chetana. Can we prescribe rasa aushadhis like Gandhaka Rasayana, Arogya Vardhini Rasa, etc. in postnatal feeding women in necessary conditions? I think we are going a bit out of topic. However,
we can. No issues, we can.
Okay.
Gandhaka Rasayana is the regular prescription in our post-cesarean episiotomy cases. Gandhaka Rasayana is also a Rasayana. Sulfur drugs they give. We do not have the complication of that sulfur. So sulfur is given. If you think modern aspect, sulfur drugs are given somewhere as antibiotic. We don't have the complications of that. It is a very good antibiotic, we can say. Trifluoglucandacrosine. In all episiotomy cases, in all post-cesarean cases, trifluoglucandacrosine are our routine prescriptions. We have not come across any problem in these patients.
Next question, Dr. Bhavani, 34-year-old with spotting for 4 to 5 days before period, every cycle, but without pain, should we consider it as endometriosis and how to treat?
What is Jartavadushti it is? It is not endometriosis. What is Jartavadushti? Maybe if you ignore it, neglect it, and if she continues to have this, it will turn into endometriosis.
There is one question, Dr. Mamata Amit Mishra. Congratulations, madam, for your knowledge sharing in such a way. I would like to know about PCOS, 6 months, amenorrhea, and premenopause syndrome with endometriosis.
Age?
Age is not mentioned, but
premenopause.
Premenopause, so could be late 40s or mid 40s. That's one thing.
In late 40s, polycystic ovarian disease, endometriosis together, and Shodhana. Vamana. Vamana would be ideal treatment, wherein Anarthava Chikitsa is also Vamana. PCOD, Doshaira Avrata Margatva, there also Chikitsa is Vamana. And endometriosis, Shodhana, Panchavirnari.
Okay.
Vamana. So all the way, Vamana is the ideal line of management there initially. Then if the condition continues, or if you think dosha or shesha is there, then go for the next step of Shodhana, Virechana.
Ma'am, I think most of the questions they're asking, we have already answered in the presentations previously. So I'm skipping those questions because the recording will be available later, so they can go through that. And one question, Dr. Sumita Jidewar. Ma'am, one patient with adenomyosis and secondary infertility and amenorrhea for 4 to 5 months. Menses doesn't come without hormonal therapy, and age is 30 years. Vata Prakriti and Vata Prakriti, yes.
Adenomyosis and amenorrhea doesn't go together usually. With the menstruation, the adenomyosis gets predisposed. And the adenomyosis, and wherever there is anarthava lakshana, you assess whether there is anarthava can be a presentation of two conditions. One is extreme vatavriddhi and dhatukshaya resulting in anarthava, or it is vatakafide avrata margatvat anarthava. So avarana pathology, if it is there, then go for vamana. If only dhatukshaya pathology is there, sneha virechana, then basti.
Okay.
Even Yapana Bastis can be advised there.
Okay. And after Shodhana, how long we should continue Shamana medicines?
There is no limit for that. As long as patient gets normalized, as long as until she conceives or she becomes asymptomatic and her lifestyle becomes normal. If she continues with a normal lifestyle, you may leave the medication earlier. Okay. If she is continuing with the Nidana Sevana, probably the use of drug may continue. It's just like Udavarta. In Udavarta, you advise Udavarta Nidana Parivarjana. Within 1 month treatment or 2 months treatment, also patient can be normalized. After that, if she continues to have her Nidanas, again on the 3rd or 4th month, her symptom will come back.
Okay.
So this is what I observe. So
the lifestyle change has to be for the rest of the life. That's a must.
That is the basic of our treatment. Patiye sati gadartasya.
Yes, sir. Dr. Arati, thank you, madam, for the wonderful presentation. It is common to see patients with prolonged menstrual bleeding, which poses certain difficulties in the chikitsa. Snehabana, Shodhana, etc. Madam, what is your suggestion? Do you suggest Sadhyo Snehana?
No, you stop the bleeding. If the samprapti is of long standing, Sadhya Snehana and Sadhya Shodhana will not suffice. Sadhya Snehana, Sadhya Shodhana is only Koshtakata. If the doshas are Koshtakata, then it's enough. If acute exacerbation of acute respiratory, upper respiratory infections are there, then yes, Sadyavamana will do.
Hmm.
If a long-standing Tamakashwasa case is there, Sadyavamana may give some symptomatic relief, but the disease will not be cured. Same way, endometriosis, as a Sadyasnehana is given, once the patient may get little relief, but doshas which are spread all over the body are not brought to the koshta before you are doing Sadyvarechana. So only Koshtagata, maybe it is elimination of collected fecal matter. That's it.
That's all. Okay.
Nothing else.
Madam, one question. Can you please elaborate relation between Pichavasti and adenomyosis?
This Pichavasti, I started giving in adenomyosis after accidentally treating a case of, I think, IBS with Pichavasti and adenomyosis. So after that, I started continuing. Maybe Ruksha Guna of Vata, if it is very predominant. There, Pichilata will compensate that Ruksha Guna. That is how probably it is working. That is my derivation after seeing the results. This is retrograde work. Retrospective work. This is what I gave explanation, but it is found after seeing the result.
Okay.
I have not started the medicine for the disease particular. I have given it for some other condition. Accidentally, I found it is working well with this. So then it's without seeing, I just go on prescribing, which I was seen adenomyosis with excessive bleeding. So that works well. You have to give me what is the reason now.
Madam, one question. This is quite relevant in today. What is your opinion regarding the use of vaginal cups in causing these yoni vyapats?
This question I faced several times. Only unhygienic insertion can give rise to all vaginal conditions, infective conditions is one thing what I observe. Other than that, collection maybe outside, maybe within cervix, it should not cause any problem. It is nowhere blocking anything. It's not blocking. Vaginal insertion should be hygienic. It should not induce any infections. Preservation of the cup should be in a hygienic condition.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Dr. Ramya, do you have any question?
Hello.
Dr. Ramya?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, doctor, you're audible.
Namaskaram, madam. Thank you for the wonderful session. I would like to ask you your opinion on one case, madam. I mean, a few cases that I have come across, like female patients, they are in their menopausal age and they are diagnosed with the adenomyosis. 2 or 3 cases I had come across, and but over a period, madam, they attain menopause. But they do persist symptoms with painful defecation occasionally or occasional abdominal pain and all. They are, I mean, as amenorrhea is already set in. So in such cases, should that be taken into consideration, or once the patient attains menopause, should the background of adenomyosis or endometriosis be a concern for us? One area, madam. And second one, ma'am, your Pichavasti, what is the contents that Shalmali, Niriyasam or Kshira it is added, or how is it prepared? If you could explain, that would be better, madam.
Pichavasti, as per the textual references we are going, I don't know very much details. Shalmali Niryasa is the main content of that. Kshira, I don't think we add Kshira into Shalmali Pichavasti. As per the textual reference of Pichavasti, I refer just for Pichavasti. So I don't go into the details, I'm sorry. I can refer and get you back if you want. One thing. Second thing, second thing is anarthava or amenorrhea. Inducing amenorrhea is the line of treatment of adenomyosis or endometriosis. So menopausal patients should not have problem with the endometriosis or adenomyosis. That is the cure for adenomyosis or endometriosis. If the pain is there, it may be because of some pressure factor. If the bulky uterus is causing mechanical pressure over the sigmoid colon or rectum, that is one thing. If already have encysted endometriotic lesions, if they are there, they may give rise to pain. Second thing. Third thing, if there are some previous adhesions formed because of endometriosis, and if the movement of the sigmoid colon or the wave contractions of the forward propulsion of the fecal matter is disturbed because of these additions, then there can be pain, or sometimes it may be because of the postmenopausal bloatedness of the abdomen also. We can't say.
Madam, in that
should not cause any problem.
Okay, in that condition, like the line of treatment should be like anulomana should be seen in the background, since already Anarthava has set in. And then should we go for Gandharvastadi Chiruladi kind of medicines, or it's like Rakta Tikta Pachana kind of medicines? What is in your opinion? And about
I think Anulomana is sufficient in these conditions. Tikta Pachana is not required. If there is bleeding, excessive bleeding, then Tikta Pachana usually I prefer. Otherwise, no.
Okay. So we need
Ksheerabastis may be indicated in cases of menopause and menopausal complaints. So Ksheerabasti may be useful with that angle. Astigata Vata.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So the
all those complications.
Okay. So background of adenomyosis in a menopause, once she has attained, that need not worry as such.
No.
Okay.
But MRI index can be nowadays. MRI index can be studied.
Okay. And regarding Pichavasti, ma'am, if you could get me, like we have two yogas, one told in Atisara Chikitsa and Arsho Chikitsa. One is with Kshira and the other one is Shalmali.
No, not with the Shalmali. It's not with Kshira. It is with Shalmali.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramya. Ma'am, another question, reference of Chitraka Grandhyadi Kashayam or content. I think it's mentioned in Ashtanga Hridayam Gulma Chigilsa. I think the content, it has mostly 4 contents. I think it's Chitrakam and Pipali Moolam, Shunti and Erendam. I think it's a blend of Vata Nilomanam, it is Lekanam, it is Rodoshodhanam. I think all of this put together, it's a wonderful drug of choice for endometriosis here. And Madam, anything you want to add for that Chitraka Grandhyadi in your experience?
You are the better person to give it.
Ma'am, how to differentiate Vataja Yoni Vyapad, Vataja Asrigdara, Vataja Rajo Dushti? And
clinical symptoms, Vataja Yoni Vyapad is having very severe pain, and Gulma, Stambha, or Karkashata, Pipalika Saktimiva Vedana, all these in combination, it is Vataja Yoni Vyapad. Vataja Rajo Dushti is the beginning condition, very mild condition, where only menstrual features have been changed.
Okay.
Maybe painful initial conditions. Vataja Rajo Dushti also, if you ignore, that can land up with Vataja Yoni Vyapad. Vataja Asragdara Lakshana should be there.
Okay. Ma'am, we are getting so many questions, but considering that you mentioned about your time limitation, I think we will stop here. For all those people who joined late, please do understand the recordings will be sent to you after a week, along with the key takeaways and the show notes of this. And now I request our chairman of Sitaram Research Foundation and the managing director of Sitaram Ayurveda Private Limited, Dr. Ramanathan, sir, please give your concluding remarks. Sir. Yes.
Good afternoon, Dr. Mamada.
Thank you, sir.
It's a very nice and useful, knowledgeable webinars, madam. So usually what happened, in my experience, the theoretician always the theory side, and practical side people are strength in the practical side. But madam, your theory also, both sides, the modern medicine and also the Ayurveda is exemplary, and also your treatment side, especially your diagnosis, you have mentioned that 5D is how to diagnose it in the endometriosis. You have mentioned the 5D is very useful, madam. Dysmenorrhea, dyseg, and disorders. And 5D is all the area. You have more than 18 to 20 slides are mentioned. So, first of all, I congratulate you, madam. You are a role model. First, my heart, I tell you are one of the role model in that area, madam. Thank you. You have done very good job, all the area. And especially you are 99%, you are covered with the Shastri medicine. Usually what happened nowadays that everybody is a club with the Shastri and as well as the PP product. But that is enough. That is some area that is a Shastrik, more PP product also is required. But nowadays, what happened, madam, that is the number of the lack of the knowledge. You have mentioned the Chitraga Gandhiyadi Kashayam and Saptasaranga Kashayam, Illandishagadi Kashayam, and Chiruvilyadi Kashayam, Gandharvasadi Kashayam. We are manufacturing. Number of ghee also we are manufacturing, but we are getting the lack of the prescription nowadays. This webinar definitely useful, the knowledge of the how to use, where it used, what is the best time for the use, all the area you are covered that fantastically. So I once more thank you, madam. You are once more repeated. You are a role model. All the webinar students and as well as the doctors, we follow. That is Mamata madam, all the whatever they said, that is the basic Ayurveda and also the modern aspect and how to club it properly. And that she has mentioned that 1,000 patient, that is 1.6 cases are there. So what is the chances of the Ayurveda doctors in future? This area is enough. That is for our growth, for the Ayurvedic practitioners, enough for the practice. So I am once more thank you, madam, for all your support. Definitely, that you have mentioned some ghee also. Definitely, we can manufacture madam immediately and inform you. And once again, thank you very much. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mamata madam, again, and thank you, Dr. Ramanathan sir. And the next webinar on Sunday will be a practical approach on abnormal vaginal discharge by Dr. Sitara Satishan. And once again, thank you all the participants. And as we always say, spending few hours with a practitioner and a scholar is equivalent to spending so much of hours and days in a library. So make it a commitment to invest in learning. This is a part of our growth. And as we are an Ayurvedic doctor, we have a huge commitment to the society, especially where allopathic medicine is giving them no other way to go ahead. So it is our responsibility to take it in our shoulders to heal the humanity. Thank you all and see you next Sunday.
Thank you.
Very nice.